I've been asked a lot of questions about shared parental leave, and that's a right that's come in as of the 5th of April 2015. So a lot of employers and employees have said, what is this all about? Well, basically, it's a right that applies to all parents of children, in the sense of children who are born or adopted. And the issue around it is what happens after a child has either been born or adopted. Usually all of the rights fall to the mother in terms of leave. But what is happening now is that where a mother would normally have had 2 weeks compulsory leave after the birth of a child, followed by up to 50 weeks of leave to be able to look after that child, that leave is able to be shared by the partner, and that could be the father or a female partner. So what would happen is, where a mother has given birth to a child, she has to take compulsory leave of 2 weeks. And after that, there is the opportunity for the partner to be able to share those 50 weeks. Now that can be done in blocks of 3, it can be shared in other ways. It's all about working it out with your employer. And out of those 50 weeks, 37 of those weeks are paid. And the way in which they're paid is either statutory pay, which is set at a certain level and that is revised every April, or 90% of the full salary, whichever is the lower. Now, there are variations to this in the sense that companies can decide to be much more generous. That applies whether you're an employee trying to look at the staff handbook to decide whether you are entitled to these rights and what it will be, or whether you're the employer and you need to be redrafting your policies. So that's the way that it basically works. Now, in terms of giving notice to your employer and qualifying for this, there are very specific rules that are in place, and they can be quite complex. One of the parents has to have worked for the employer for a period of 26 weeks by the end of the 15th week before the birth of the baby or the adoption of the baby. So that's the criteria for one of the parents or carers. The criteria for the second parent or carer is that they have worked for 26 weeks in the period 66 weeks before the birth or adoption of the child. And it has to be the case that they have earned £30, a minimum of £30, in 13 weeks during that period. So it is quite complicated, and it's something that I would suggest that you really look up and sit down with a calculator and a calendar and figure out. And I certainly recently did that with the employee of one of my clients. Just really sat down with them with a calculator and went through all of their rights, and it made it much clearer. Rather than having it in the handbook, expecting the employee to read about it, it just makes it simpler if you both go through it and then everybody knows where they stand. Shared parental leave does not apply to foster parents. Now, foster parents is somewhat of an old-fashioned term. What I mean by that now is that these are the carers of looked after children, so it doesn't apply to you if you're one of those. The other thing that you need to bear in mind is that shared parental leave must be taken between the birth or adoption of a child and their first birthday or the year after the adoption. So that's the way that shared parental leave works. It's something that's new. I would suggest that it's something that you certainly amend within your staff handbook and get advice on, because it can be quite technical. And the issue really that is arising, that I'm seeing much more of, is that fathers in particular feel quite bad about asking for the shared parental leave, even though they are entitled still to the 2 weeks of parental leave that they qualify for upon the birth or adoption of a child. They're still entitled to that. It's more the case that fathers are finding it very difficult to then ask for the shared parental leave. So this might be something worth issuing as part of your staff newsletter or something along those lines, so that you're able to raise it as a subject, so that people are aware that they're able to do it, but also so that you keep up to date with the legislation.